All right, welcome back to school today. Thanks so much for being here. So behind me is our smart board. We're going to try and do all the teaching from our smart board today. So we'll see how it goes. You guys can give me some feedback if it was not clear and if you can't see it, okay? All right, so a quick review. Yesterday's lesson, you guys learned about polygons, and polygons had two elements that they had to have in order to qualify as a polygon. Do you guys remember what those two things are for a polygon? Do you remember? So it had to have line segments, so those straight lines, and it had to be closed. Okay, good job. All right, so today's lesson is about classifying those quadrilaterals, which are polygons that have four sides, okay, and four angles. So we're going to look at some of these quadrilaterals. So the first one is just, what is a quadrilateral? A quadrilateral is a plane, meaning that 2D, so that plane closed figure with four sides that have those line segments. So any shape that you see that has those straight lines, those line segments, and it has four sides, that is a quadrilateral, okay? All right, a trapezoid is another type of quadrilateral. So everything that you see on this paper is a quadrilateral. It means four sides, four angles, okay? So a quad means, just this word right here, quad means four, okay? So any quad has four sides, four angles, and so a trapezoid is a type of quadrilateral, a parallelogram is a type of quadrilateral, a rectangle, a rhombus, and a square. Those are all types of quadrilaterals, and we are going to classify them on a chart in a little bit here. Okay, so a trapezoid is a quadrilateral with exactly one pair of parallel sides. So parallel means the lines, okay, the lines will never intersect. So it means they go on and on forever in the same direction and they're the same distance apart. So if you had it like this would not be parallel, okay? So as an example, so you've got this line here and this line here. They are line segments. They go on and on forever in both directions. They will never intersect. Okay, I do need to make sure you understand this trapezoid definition that we're using is not the same definition that everybody uses. So there are some math programs that use a trapezoid definition as, instead of exactly one pair, they will say at least one pair. But the math that we'll be working with and the definition we are going to use for this year, 5th grade, is where there's exactly one pair of parallel sides. So this line and this line, that is the one pair of parallel sides. They will never intersect. If you look at these two lines here, though, if these lines go on and on forever, will they crash and intersect? They will. So this is the one pair of parallel sides, okay? A parallelogram is a quadrilateral with two pair of parallel sides. So for that, you would see, well, a rectangle works, but I'll do it this way. So you can see this side and this side. That is one pair of parallel sides. And then if you go these other lines, these two are making the other pair. So a parallelogram has two pairs of parallel sides. A rectangle, you guys should remember a rectangle from your earlier years. So again, a rectangle, even though you see that it has two pairs of parallel sides, a rectangle by definition is that it has four right angles. So you would see those squares in all four corners. So four right angles. That's the definition of a rectangle. So it's a parallelogram. So it's one of these shapes, two pairs of parallel sides, but it has four right angles on it instead of these acute angles and obtuse angles. Okay, a rhombus. A rhombus is a parallelogram with four congruent sides. So a rhombus can look different, but I'm going to just draw it this way. Okay, so you've got this side, this side, this side, and this side, and they should all be congruent, meaning the same length. Okay, and that's part of what a square is. Okay, so if you go back and say the rhombus definition, it's a parallelogram. So again, two pairs of parallel sides. Okay, so it's a parallelogram with four congruent sides. To make it the parallelogram again, it has the two pairs of parallel sides. Okay, a square is a rhombus, so it's taking the shape, and this time I'm not going to turn it at the angle. I'm going to just make it like a square that you guys are familiar with. So a square is a rhombus, so just take this and twist it on its side. It's a rhombus. It has four right angles. Okay, and it has those four congruent, which means all equal, the same distance, same length, four congruent sides. So this side is congruent to every other side. Four congruent sides and four right angles. Okay, I'm going to change the information on your screen now, and we're going to look at this hierarchy chart. So let me erase what we have here. And all right, so this is a hierarchy chart that shows all of the quadrilaterals. I'm going to make it a little bit smaller. Let's see if I can do it from, nope, I got to go over here. Okay. Hopefully that's a little bit better for you guys to see. All right. Okay, at the very top it says quadrilaterals. So again, everything on here is classified as a quadrilateral. Okay, so we've already said trapezoids are a quad, parallelograms are a quadrilateral, rhombuses are a quadrilateral, rectangles are a quadrilateral, and a square. So again, ask yourself, what's a quad? Four sides, four angles. Okay, so a quad, again, everything's a quad on here, but then they kind of separate. A trapezoid goes on this side and has nothing connected to it. Over here, though, we have the parallelogram, and from the parallelogram, we have the rhombus and rectangle that fall from it, and from the rhombus and rectangle, we have a square that goes down underneath it, because they're all connected in a certain way. Okay, so by looking here, we've written in what it is. It's a trapezoid. There are two different pictures of a trapezoid. So again, of the trapezoid, it's one set of parallel lines, so those lines will never intersect. Okay, so this line right here and this line right here, they go on forever and never intersect. This one right here, we have this line and this line, they will never intersect. Okay, so one set of parallel lines is the definition of a trapezoid, and that's what two different examples of trapezoids could be. Okay, then over here, the other quad is a parallelogram. We've already defined that a parallelogram has two sets of parallel sides. So that would be right here, there's the one set, and then right here, there's the other pair or the other set. Okay? Okay, so again, trapezoid is all on its own. There's nothing connected to it underneath to show that there's anything else that qualifies under a trapezoid. Okay? But over here, we have the quad with the parallelogram, and from the parallelogram, we get a rhombus and a rectangle. So we learned just a few minutes ago that a rhombus has to have four congruent sides. So here's a picture of a drawing of a rhombus. Okay, and it can be turned also. It can also look like this. So some of you maybe learned it in your earlier years as a kite. Okay, you just need to know that a rhombus, every single side has to have the same exact measurement. Okay, so that's the definition of a rhombus. Four congruent or four equal length sides. Okay, so over here, the parallelogram falls down and you get a rectangle, because a rectangle is also a parallelogram and a rectangle is also a quadrilateral. Okay, so on a rectangle, here's a picture of a rectangle that you guys learned early in your school years. A rectangle, by definition, just has to have four right angles. That's the only definition for a rectangle. It has to have four right angles. Now, it also has those two sets of parallel sides because it's also a parallelogram. So a rectangle is also classified as a parallelogram. Okay. All right, then from the rhombus and rectangle, you get a square. Because what is a square? A square is a rectangle, a square is a rhombus, a square is a parallelogram, and a square is also a quadrilateral. Okay, so a square is all of those things. Let's see if I can slide that down a little bit. Okay, so again, a square is a rectangle. A square is also classified as a rhombus. A square is also classified as a parallelogram, and it's also classified as a quad. So I know you can't see quad anymore, but the quad is right up here. Okay? All right, so how does that work? Well, if you look at it, a square has 4 right angles on it, and a square also has 4 congruent sides. So therefore, a square is also the rhombus. Okay? We know that we said a square was also a parallelogram because if you look at the square, does a square have 2 sets of parallel sides? It does, right? So I'm going to draw the other square right here so you can see it more. So a square has the 4 right angles, and a square has 4 sides that are all congruent. So it's the same definition as a rhombus, it's the same definition as a rectangle, and it also has the 2 sets of parallel sides. This line and this line, those are the parallel pairs. And over here, we've got the other pair of parallel lines. Okay? So what you would need to learn in 5th grade is that this whole hierarchy, this whole chart is showing different quadrilaterals, 4 sides, 4 angles, but how they're all classified in a different way. So if somebody gave you a question and said, is a rectangle a square? Well, is a rectangle a square? We would have to say no. But is a square a rectangle? Yes, a square can be classified as a rectangle because a square has 4 right angles. Okay, if somebody said, is a rhombus a square? Well, is a rhombus a square? We would have to say no. But is a square a rhombus? Yes, because a square has 4 congruent sides, and that is the definition of a rhombus. Okay? What if somebody asked you, is a rhombus a trapezoid? You would say, no, a trapezoid is just a trapezoid, and it only qualifies as a polygon or a quadrilateral, okay? There's nothing else, again, that falls under the trapezoid, okay? So again, let's go over this for one final time. You guys need to know a quadrilateral has 4 sides and 4 angles, okay? On this chart, the trapezoid is a quad, and it has 4 sides and 4 angles on it. It only has 1 set of parallel lines, okay? And that's the definition we are using. So some schools, some other math programs, they use the definition where the trapezoid definition is at least one set of parallel sides. So that's a whole different story though, okay? So you need to know trapezoids have 1 set of parallel sides, okay? You need to know that a parallelogram has 2 sets of parallel sides. That's the definition that you need to know. A rhombus has 4 congruent sides. A rectangle has the 4 right angles, and a square has to have what the rhombus has, 4 congruent sides, as well as 4 right angles, which is the definition of a rectangle as well. Okay, so hopefully that helps you to understand the hierarchy chart of these quadrilaterals and how to classify them. On our test, this would actually be what your test would look like, other than being filled in. All of these blanks would be left for you to fill in. We will not be taking this test. This is just information for you to know about, okay? So today you're going to do a 3, 2, 1 activity. You're going to tell me 3 things you learned, 2 things you knew, and 1 thing you are more curious about that would like to learn more about this. Does that make sense? So 3, 2, 1. 3 things you learned, 2 things you knew, and 1 thing you want to learn more about. Okay, thanks so much for being here at school today. I really appreciate you guys, and I'm missing you. So have a great day. See ya. Bye-bye.